talking out loud with A.L. Cooper. She's talking out loud, but she's saying something. 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 Politics, religion, fashion, people, passion, lifestyles, no topic too wild. She's talking out loud, but she's saying something. She's talking out loud, but she's saying something. She's talking out loud, but she's saying something. She's talking out loud, but she's saying something.
Hey everybody, and you're watching Talking Out Loud with A.L. Cooper. I'm your host, A.L., and today we are talking out loud about pet companions, specifically pit bulls. Today we're asking, are they a family friend or a family foe? With summer approaching, there are so many pet lovers that are going to be out and about, and they're going to have their pet companions with them, some leashed, some unleashed. But there has been a lot of controversy surrounding one pet in particular, and that is the specific breed of pit bulls. Today we have a wonderful host of guests that are going to give us some information and discuss the pros and the cons of owning a pit bull. We're going to have people, just have a good conversation about whether it's a pet, a family pet, or a family foe. Let's just have our guests introduce themselves. So we have Miss Dr. Rebecca, or Dr. Becky as they call you. So tell us a little bit about who you are and how you feel about it.
Absolutely. So I am a licensed clinical psychologist, and I am also a life coach.
Okay.
And I own the only concierge psychology, it's called Concierge Psychology, practice in Georgia.
Okay.
So I see everyone, but I tend to cater towards a high-end group, people with special needs because of their jobs, things like that. I see a lot of people because of trauma and anxiety, which is sort of where the tie-in for me is here. When people have something traumatic happen to them, a lot of times there is anxiety that comes up around that, or even phobias that form. So I'm here to help speak to what happens after something happens and the healthiest way to move forward at that point.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you, sir?
My name is Dean, a.k.a. Cujo, founder and national president of Bikers Against Animal Abuse and Neglect. My wife and I formed this organization at the beginning of 2014 after we saw a need that hadn't been met in the South area concerning bikers and the way that we can rally together for a specific cause. What we have noticed since we've been doing this on our own after many, many years of 15 plus in the rescue world is that we've seen an influx of pit bulls recently in shelters. And the media has really taken off with some of the stories that have occurred as a result of some of the actions of a few of the pit bulls, as resulting in tragedies and whatnots. Our experience teaches us both sides of the coin, and we're here to speak both on both pros and cons of owning a pit bull.
Okay. And last but definitely not least, Top Dog here is in the house with his pet companion.
Well, I'm so glad to be here. I'm here with my faithful companion, Czar. He travels with me everywhere. My name is Blake Top Dog Rashad, and I am a dog expert. I've been dealing with dogs for, saying my age here now, over 30 years.
Wow.
I'm former U.S. Army K-9 trainer. I've trained with the City of Atlanta Police Department. I've consulted with the Police Department and Sheriff's Department. I work with corporations such as the post office and large corporations, helping them reduce some of their dog bites. My nonprofit caters to helping people, particularly kids and elderly, be safe around dogs. And through education, we have found that we can bring down the numbers because we're looking at about 4 million people being bitten every year.
Wow.
2 million of those are children.
Wow.
So, and something as simple as education can cut those numbers in half very quickly. So that's what we are challenged to do each day. And we go out to schools, churches, and different organizations, and we talk to kids, we talk to elderly people, we talk to people with special needs, and we also talk to victims. So that's what we are dedicated to, and the name of our program is Kids and Canines.
Kids and Canines. Wow. Well, I'm just so happy to have you guys on the show today. And one of the main reasons why I felt the need to have this show is because I love pets. I love dogs, and I grew up, in a household with pit bulls. And I believe over the course of years, it's just that it's just been just this huge awareness of the breed that's come to mind, with special celebrity cases in mind, using them to fight in regards to other animals. Using pit bulls have been labeled very aggressive, natured animals. And a lot of people think that that is true, but a lot of people don't. What do you guys feel? I know, Dr. Becky, you counsel people and you help people get through the traumatic experiences that they've experienced. Have everyone that's come to you in regards to being a victim of an aggressive breed, maybe being traumatized by an experience with them, has it always been pit bulls, or have there been other aggressive breeds? I mean, because I feel that most people just think it's all about the pit, and that they're the ones that are very aggressive. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. And actually, before I even get all the way into what they were, one thing I found is, pit bulls themselves are actually not a breed. It actually encompasses 4, 5, 6 breeds within there. So there's a lot of misconception right there. We're not talking about one dog. We're talking about a bunch that fit this. They generally look the same and have this shaped head, so we've labeled them that. Right. The other thing I run into is that a lot of people incorrectly identify dogs as pit bulls. And I mean, don't mean things that are similar, things like collies. Yeah. They've done a lot of going back and looking at, when people were actually attacked, and having someone who's a professional in the field go, and they say, this is not a pit bull. But people, aren't educated about dogs. Most of us can't just look at it. I don't remember what she is. Most of us don't know dog breeds off the top of our head. Right. But I have found that there is this assumption almost automatically. Oh, a dog bit? It must have been a pit bull. Wow. And so then if it's a lab or anything even remotely close, boom, it was a pit automatically. So it's actually hard for me to say even, because if somebody comes to me and says, this is what happened and it was a pit, I figure there's at least an 80% chance it wasn't anyway. So then our focus, but interestingly enough, when that does happen, it usually goes out to all dogs. People aren't just then afraid of dogs with big heads. They're then afraid of all dogs. So where I come in, I'm sort of looking at it generally. But I do try to provide that education too, so that they're not afraid to go near every black short-haired dog that they see. Yeah. Because it's not, as universal as I think we tend to make it.
Interesting. Now, Dean, you are Bikers Against Animals.
Animal abuse and neglect.
Yeah, animal abuse and neglect. What is your take on it? Because you guys are for the advocacy of protecting and against people abusing pit bulls because of the different things that have come up in regards to the media and information and them abandoning them, and you actually rescue them, correct?
That is correct. One of our main focuses is on the level of education, of educating the public on exactly what a pit bull is, just like Becky had said, and the fact that majority of the dog bites that make the media are labeled as pit bulls, and in reality the dog is not really a pit bull. One of the things that we've encountered over our time in our rescue doing this is the majority of the dogs that we end up having to trap outside that are considered strays that even animal control can't catch, we are able to. We've actually observed some various behaviors in those dogs, and once they are actually feel some kind of affection versus some level of abuse, they come out of their shells after they decompress for a couple of weeks, and they become some of the most loving and affectionate dogs ever. In fact, this past weekend, we actually had one that we've actually determined to be a Mastiff mix that was literally kicked out of a car into a neighborhood. And it took the neighbors 2 weeks for them to locate us or somebody that was willing to go out and try to capture this dog. We contacted the animal control in the county and told them that we have this dog. We followed every rule and every regulation that's been outlined for us as a rescue to follow. And this dog, when we first got him, was somewhat aggressive, was growling, snarling, showing his teeth. Within a matter of about 36 hours, he was crawl in your lap and lay down and let you pet him. Now, that same dog had somebody that did not know this breed, or any breed dog for that matter. As Becky said, it doesn't matter which dog. Once you're bitten, you're always shy. Had not known this dog, they would have definitely not approached this dog. We have found that not every dog that appears to be a pit bull is a vicious dog. Granted, it's like with anybody or any human, there are good and bad. And when you have the numbers of pit bulls that are being bred and they're in the population today, the chances of having more basically pit bull aggressive type dogs is higher because the numbers are higher. It's simply mathematics. Okay. When you have a million dogs, not a million dogs are going to test high and perfect. So it's not the breed specifically, it's the deed.
Blake, how do you feel about that as a dog trainer?
Well, what we need to do here is I keep up with these numbers and these studies. I follow them. I'm a dog behaviorist, so I study all breeds of dogs, and I love all breeds of dogs. And a pit bull is a wonderful dog, a wonderful dog. but we have to look at inherently what a dog was bred to do. And we can't ignore that. And using choice words like, the driver's maybe a little high, or they're spirited, or things of that nature, that doesn't do well to make the public to understand exactly what they're dealing with. We need education about working type dogs that are more vicious or more apt to bite other than other breeds of dogs, pit bulls included. When we're dealing with a breed of dog that has a past of extreme violence, then things can happen. Okay? Now, that doesn't make that dog necessarily going to bite every time you breed one of them. That's not what I'm saying. But it has a higher percentage of biting than maybe a different breed. And example is if you take a 6-week-old or a 7-week-old Labrador Retriever, and you put it near a pond, it'll smell the water and jump in. You don't have to teach it to swim. You don't have to teach it to jump. If you take a sporting dog, a pointer of sort, and it hears ruffling in the brush, it will automatically point at 8 weeks old. You don't have to teach it. It will do it. A bloodhound will put his nose to the ground. A pit bull as a breed of dog. Now, it is a multitude of dogs. We're talking about a dog that goes all the way back to the 1800s. It came out of Malassa family. Okay? Now, they originally started this dog as a working hand for man to control unruly bulls. Talking about a 2,000-pound animal. Okay, they would put a ring in the nose of this bull, and the pit bull would use this ring or other parts of the bull to control the bull. After a while, the bull would develop a fear of this breed of dog.
Well, what we're going to do is, you brought up some very good points, and I know there's a lot of people out there that completely disagree with each and every one of you. But when we come back, we're going to talk more about something that you said. I want to talk more about the breed, where it originated from, what it was born, what it was bred, what is its purpose. So we're going to be coming back with more of Talking Out Loud about pit bulls, family friend or family foe.
Millions of loving cats and dogs in shelters and rescues need our help to find a home. So go to theshelterpetproject.org, search your local shelters and rescues, and adopt already.
Got your personal references, high school diploma or equivalent?
Skip the drama. Get your diploma.
It's right there.
Find free adult education classes at finishyourdiploma.org.
Everybody, and welcome back. You're watching Talking Out Loud with A.L. Cooper. I'm your host, A.L., and today we're talking about dogs, specifically pit bulls, and asking, are they family friends or family foes? Now, before we went to break, Blake, you were explaining the origin of the pit bull and how it originated and how every dog pretty much has a purpose, which I find interesting because I believe people have purposes, and it's kind of interesting to know that dogs have purposes. And you said that the pit bull was originally bred as a people's helper dog, or
well, at the time, it's a descendant of the pit bull. It wasn't quite a pit bull yet. It was a much larger dog in the Malassa family. All pit bulls, you got to understand, there was only several different breeds of dogs that came out of wild or from wolf of sort that became domesticated. So the Malassa family dog was a large breed of dog, tough dog, and it hung around humans because it was a good trade-off. We fed and protected it, and it protected and hunted for us. So bringing down that bull with that horn, with the ring in his nose, was one of the duties. Okay, now that sprung into humans always need sport. That sprung into wanting to see that in a ring, and we made a ring sport out of it. And they would put dogs, about 2 dogs, no more than 2 dogs, in a ring, and this event would last about 4 hours.
What?
And a lot of bulls would be killed in the ring, but most of them would be exhausted And you would think a 2,000-pound bull will be able to handle them, but this animal stresses out and becomes exhausted, and it passes out, and then they have to go in and get the pit bulls, well, the molosses. Now, then they decided that that's too expensive to have these type of sports. You're talking about a bull that people eat or use for stud.
Mm-hmm.
So they decided to use bears, other animals, even monkeys.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a lot of different animals that they used. Later on, the dogs started to disperse into the poor crowd and the people that didn't have as much as others, so they couldn't use certain animals. So they reduced the size of the pit bull by mixing it with a dog in Britain and in Great Britain, and then from that dog they mixed it with the bull terrier, and then the dog got a lot smaller, a lot stronger, shorter snout, and a lot tougher, pure muscle.
Wow.
Okay. Then it got the name of pit bull because they would dig a trench, and they would dig a big pit, and then they would drop about anywhere from 50 to 100 rats in the hole, and then they would drop a pit bull in, and or they would build an area where the rats couldn't get out, and they would drop more than one pit bull, and then they would bet on which pit bull could kill the most rats. In 1835, the pit bull, it's on record that there's a pit bull that it killed 100 rats in 5 minutes.
Wow.
It broke a record. That record still stands. Okay? Now, dog fighting came onto the scene. Now, you got to understand why you use rats during those days. There was an overpopulation of rats.
Right.
England and Germany was ramshacked with rats, and we get into the plague and things of that nature. So,
Right.
so it was kind of rewarded. People love to see that type of fighting because we get to be entertained and we get rid of rats. Now, then we got into the pit bull.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as it came to America, fishermen brought the pit bull over. They started fighting these dogs. And these dogs were often kept in the dark, only brought out a couple of hours a day just to train or to fight. They had no interaction with other animals or humans other than the handler. They were fed bloody meat.
Wow.
As a result of, now, it's a theory that meat does not make your dog aggressive, so let me say that. But in their mind, it did. But blood is blood.
Right.
And relating warm blood to blood that you're eating is an association that dogs did. And if the dogs showed any fear towards human or dog, meaning that if it showed any part of that fight, the dog eased up fighting or didn't fight with all his might, then a lot of times that dog would be put down by the end of that fight as well.
Wow, so that is the history of this particular breed, or just how, of the pit bull. That's really sad. That is really, really sad. I mean, my heart, I had no idea. And I don't believe the average person would ever assume that it goes back that far, and that this is what this breed has been dealing with over the years for centuries. That is just amazing. And I think that if more people really understood that and understood that it wasn't its original nature, then maybe they would treat it differently. Like when you rescue animals, Dean, are they pretty much, I know they don't have them dropped in a pit of mice, but what are some of the conditions that you've seen pit bulls endure when you've rescued them?
That's a very tough question for me to answer.
Okay. Take your time. Take your time. Take your time.
I've seen them tied to trees with nothing more than a skeleton, forced to eat their own siblings.
Wow.
Because nobody is taking care of them. I've seen them to the point where they have open wounds and actual maggots are crawling out of their living bodies still. The abuse this breed has taken over the years.
It's okay. Take your time. Let me get you some tissue. Can we get him some tissue?
It's more than most people want to realize. What they see on the news is not exactly the pit bull's life. What we see from a rescue perspective is far worse. When I say far worse, I'm talking about for the condition of the dog and for the nature of the dog that's not supposed to be treated that way. No dog, period, regardless of its breed, should be treated in a manner which we see. Everywhere from open wounds, broken legs, dismemberment, taped up snouts, you name it, eyes gone, ears chewed off, half their noses missing. We see that, and it's a result of exactly what Blake has talked about the fighting aspect and it being entertainment for humans. In our opinion, and many others share this opinion as well, pit bulls are by far one of the most abused breeds, period. And as a result of a lot of this, it's all comes from one common denominator, and it's not the dog. It's not the breed. It's not any dog's fault. It's a human problem. It's not a dog problem. And Blake spoke about education, and yes, that is extremely important. We're here to, as on the rescue side, to say that this is what's going on across the United States and across the world, because we have supporters as far away as Australia and Ireland that follow what we do here in Georgia. And we get calls daily. Every day our email is full of pictures of these kind of atrocities in which these dogs are having to endure. So when you ask me what I see, that's what I see.
Wow, that's amazing. So this is a lot of the emotion that you deal with, Dr. Becky.
Yeah, and I wanted to interject on that, if it's okay, because
Absolutely.
it is easy to identify the obvious abuse. And we had talked about behavior and triggers for dogs and things like that. And one thing I've found, I also work with social services, and I do evals for abused children. And when a child goes into a school and shoots other students or sexually acts out, we don't go to the parent and say, did anything bad happen? And they say, no, nothing bad happened here. And we say, oh, okay, it must be the kid that's the problem. But with the pit bull breeds in particular, a pit bull acts out, bites someone. You say to the family, did anything happen? Nope, we never did anything.
Wow.
And we say, oh, okay, it's just a bad dog. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't exceptions to that. It's not meant as an accusation to anybody that's been hurt. But it is to say that I don't think we can just, across the board, I feel like we should be treating dogs the same way we treat children, in the sense that if your child acts out, we look more carefully into what you may or may not have done. And just like with, parenting that doesn't necessarily work, with dogs there's the same thing, and there's the importance of knowing body language, knowing that that ears back mean an unhappy dog, and that's a time to back off. Or that if a dog has been abused and hit, that when they see a hand coming over their head, that to them can be a trigger, the same way it is with a person. If you had undergone something and I came up to you and said, oh, you have something on your shoulder, you might be, don't touch me.
Get back, Dr. Becky.
And it's not that different. And that's aside from any things that might also be bred into it. So then when you look at that as compounding the issue, then it kind of opens up a whole other piece, I think.
Wow. And it's interesting because we all see this view from someone who is adamantly against it. We, like if you go to any apartment community, they do not allow you to have the dog in your apartment home. You can't even rent there. There are a lot of places that are adamantly against this. How do you get treated, Dean? Because I'm sure there are people who say, we disagree with you, you're absolutely wrong, you're not really helping. Well, I know you have to get just a little bit of hate mail.
We get some hate mail, but I'll be honestly, the majority of what we have are very strong supporters of what we do.
Okay.
Because we don't just focus on rescuing pit bulls. We work with a lot of rescue groups, such as Friends of the Forlorn Pit Bull Rescue, that focus primarily on that breed, and they do a phenomenal job in rehab and in placement, and they do a lot of really, really tough cases. As far as our hate mail or anything like that, we do get some on occasion. Some people will post stuff on our Facebook page saying that just these dogs are not worthy. They should all be put down, and so forth, on and on and on. And it's just a rant from somebody which way we look at it, because we're not in the business of trying to rescue specifically pit bulls. We're trying to rescue any animal that's in distress or is in need.
Okay.
So as far as additional hate mail we've gotten, kind of revolves around the fact that this happened to this person, and they'll share a news story from like 2006 or something like that, and I'm thinking that dog's already been put down. That was one dog that caused the problem. It's not the entire breed. I see, by using that kind of logic, it's like taking anybody that's 19 or 20 years old, regardless of their skin color, and they commit a crime and kill somebody. Everybody 19 or 20 years old should be banned or put down.
I hope not.
And see,
Yeah.
that's exactly a lot of that mentality to us is exactly what we're
Same
facing.
thing.
We're facing a lot of that, where there's people that say that this particular breed needs to go down or be banned. If you do the banning aspect that a lot of people want to and push through, it doesn't just. If we're going to do something like that, let's make it a vicious dog law, not so much a breed-specific law.
Gotcha.
And the reason for that is you're punishing the deed, not the breed, because we have 6 pit bulls in our home, and we have grandchildren that range in age from 10 months all the way up to 9 years of age that interact daily, almost daily, with all of those grandkids. All of those 6 pit bulls are around them together. And like Blake has alluded to, it comes back to training, not just training the dog, but training the children as well, how to behave and how to recognize the signs and symptoms of a dog and how they communicate with us. They don't speak English.
Well,
Blake can attest more to that, I'm sure.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, Blake. As an expert dog trainer, what are some of the signs? What are some of the ways that you can identify maybe that your dog's in a bad mood and that you don't need to proceed, or that something's a little off because you don't know the full history of that particular animal, regardless of what kind of breed it is? What are just a few tips? We're going to take a quick break afterwards, but before we go out, I just want you to give us a few tips.
Well, I want to start off with saying we have to be honest and have an honest conversation about the victim and its victims on both parts, on both sides. And I started off by saying I love all breeds, and I think pit bull is a great breed. But also, I started off saying, giving you the history of who that pit bull is. So in saying that question you just asked, how do you see? Well, there are cases, because we're dealing with a dog that was bred and put on this earth to do violent things.
Wow.
Okay? First thing.
So that is true.
That is true.
Okay.
The history spells it out. It has very few periods where this dog wasn't being abused. Now, it's all humans that's done it to this dog. It's not the dog that did it to himself, just like he said. But the fact is, it's been done. And now we have a dog with something inside, a time bomb inside of them. So we have cases where a dog has been living with a family for X amount of time. And the dog has never been abused. They've owned the dog since it was 6 weeks old. And then there's a new child in the family, and the dog kills the child. Now, is that the fault of the owner, or is it the fault of the dog? That's what we got to look into, the behavior of the dog. And education. I think this dog should not be given out without somebody knowing exactly what this dog is capable of.
Wow, and
I agree.
Your points are all very valid. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. And we're going to come back, and we're going to be speaking with a young lady who has had a pit bull in her home before. And unfortunately, her particular animal committed one of the most hideous things that I think as any pet lover could never imagine. And we're going to get her perspective on being from someone who's experienced a traumatic experience from a pit bull, to see how she feels about it, just to get that other side, that other coin. So we'll be right back with more of Talking Out Loud with A.L. Cooper.
Are we there yet?
Yep. We're here.
It's a short drive from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
Whether you're seeking a new direction in life, want a team member on your road to success, are concerned about a child or family member, or are having difficulty in other areas of your life such as depression, anxiety, or relationship issues, Concierge Counseling provides you with the support you need when and where you need it. Using the utmost discretion, owner and founder Dr. Rebecca Johnson utilizes her years of experience with adults, teens, and children, public figures, athletes, entrepreneurs, and parents to help you accomplish your dreams and become the best you that you can be. Reach out via call or text to 404-919-5137.
everybody. This is your host, A.L. Cooper, and you're watching Talking Out Loud. Today, we are talking out loud about pit bulls and asking, are they family friends or family foe? Now, before we went to break, we were discussing basically the aggressive nature and how, Blake, you were saying that the pit bull was born to be aggressive.
Yes.
Why do you think so many people make them pit bulls?
Well,
I mean, family pets, excuse me.
It's a good-looking dog, and it can be a very excellent family pet. The thing about the pit bull is, I have issues with adopting out pit bulls if it's not done correctly, and the reason is because I'm a breeder. I breed giant schnauzers. I'm a breeder myself, but I do not allow anyone to receive a giant schnauzer from me if they've never had a working dog before. This is a big difference from a Labrador or a Collie or a sporting dog. This is a working dog. It has a past of protecting and herding. That means herding dogs and working dogs have a higher level of intelligence. Also have the ability to be aggressive, whether you train them to or not. So education is key. And if you're not ready for this, these dogs will take over your home.
Gotcha.
Okay? Now, he said there's a large population of pit bulls. Has a lot to do with, we're in a vicious circle. People can breed them. They make quick money. Breed them right in their backyard. A lot of them get away. Then these dogs breed with other dogs. And then the stray population gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And now we're coming into the shelters and we letting them back out. And someone gets them and they can't handle it because it's too aggressive. Or it can climb anything. It's very intelligent. It'll dig. It'll get out. It's going to get out. And when it gets out, it may or may not attack someone, but mainly it populates.
Wow.
So it increases. So our vicious circle continues. Now, if you're going to give a pit bull that you pulled in and you rehabbed it, but you're looking at a person that rehabbed this dog as an expert, they know this dog. They know this breed of dog, and they know what they're doing. They're good at what they're doing. But when Joe Blow comes in to adopt this dog, knows nothing about the breed, knows nothing about dogs. First dog they ever had, they get a pit bull.
Wow.
And they go home and take a bone from it.
Wow.
Problem.
So now, to the show we have Angela. Angela, welcome. Hi. Now, Angela, I know this is a very sensitive subject for you. And I know that you feel very, have your stance about pit bulls. Can you tell our audience your story and why you feel the way that you feel?
Well, my story goes back to, my story goes back to, I think about 2005, where I was walking out of a beauty salon in Decatur, Georgia, and a guy had a box of puppies. They were gorgeous. One of them was a pit bull. She was all white and had a khaki-colored patch over her eye and blue eyes, sky blue eyes. So her name was Sky. I brought Sky home and raised her, met another gentleman who had a pit bull. It's like, oh my gosh, they would have pretty babies. So bred her. Guess that was backyard breeding. And so she had puppies, and I kept one of the puppies. That puppy was named Kissy Face. Sky had broke into my room one day while I was gone and killed my rabbit. And they came home, and the door was first of all closed. But Sky was so smart. She was the coolest dog ever. She opened the door, so she figured out how to keep pawing at the knob, and she broke into my rabbit's cage. And I came home, and there was a trail of blood going from the door to the bedroom. And I felt that, oh, okay, well, that's weird. Then Kissy Face turned one. They got in a huge fight one day. We were in the living room, and I was petting Kissy Face more than Sky. Sky got very upset, attacked Kissy Face, broke her leg, tore her face apart. Wow. I used mace, water, everything to break them up. Nothing broke them up. I'm sorry, water is what broke them up. I had to use water so they can lose their traction. I used mace, everything to break them up. They weren't letting go. And so that bothered me. Then one day, I was outside going to my car, and Sky came out the house behind me and looked at a little girl across the street named Ella. And I was pregnant with Bella at the time. I was 3 months pregnant with Bella, and which she's 8 years old now. But the way that Sky looked at Ella, I knew. So I had Sky put down. I had a funeral for her, had her ashes. Like, it was hard. That was, when I tell you, my dog is my baby. Those were my babies. They slept in the bed with me. Gross, I know, but they were my babies. So I kept Kissy Face because I felt okay with Kissy Face. Kissy Face didn't bother me. She was sweet. We named her Kissy Face because, obvious reason, she was the kisser. And whenever I went to go get pedicure, she'd go to PetSmart and get dropped off, and it's like we had our day out at the spa, whatever. She was not friendly with other animals, but she was great with people. So my friends, they trusted her over their kids at my house. And so one day, when I tell you Kissy Face is even though Kissy Face killed my child, and I know this is hard for a lot of people to understand, Kissy Face was and still is my child. Like I had 3 kids. Kissy Face was very much my child. When I look at what happened to my son, I look at my oldest child killed my baby. I really do. Do I value human life more than a dog's life? Of course not. But I cannot undo the love that I had for my dog. You know, like even if one of my biological children did something really horrible, I can't unlove them. And one day I was in school, I was in Bible college, and Bo was in my office with me, and it was lunchtime, so I took him.
Bo is your son?
Bo is my son. Okay. I came downstairs I put him downstairs in his play area to, play, and I was getting ready to make his favorite. He liked ravioli and broccoli. And I needed to go to the bathroom, but we had a bathroom downstairs, but I needed to go upstairs for some feminine reasons. Yeah. And Kissy Face actually was upstairs in the bed. My husband wasn't home, so I always let her in the bed when he wasn't home. It's like, don't let Kissy Face in the bed. But she was like, oh, Kissy Face could get in the bed. She's the baby. So Kissy Face, while I was in the bathroom, I saw her get up and go downstairs, but nothing bothered me because, Bo was 2, and he was in his play area, TV was on, and I knew I was coming right back down to get on his lunch. I couldn't have been in the bathroom more than 2 minutes. But by the time of using the bathroom, changing, getting everything prepared, taken care of, I came downstairs to just proceed with cooking him lunch. My son was laying in a pool of blood. I heard nothing. There was no music on in the house. The TV was on downstairs, but it was on Sesame Street, so it wasn't like, MTV playing or anything. And I didn't know if he was dead at that time. It was definitely fresh, but he was unconscious, and I started screaming, and it agitated her, so she started picking up, shaking him, and slinging him against the wall. And my son was nearly decapitated. It was very fast. And it reminded me of when Kissy Face and her mom got in a fight. I saw it, but you heard nothing. Like, there was no, there was no, you would think you would hear a yell or screaming or. And I talked to another parent, Stephanie Gregg, her daughter Savannah Gregg was killed by their family pit bull right in front of them. And she said Savannah didn't make a noise either, right in front of them. They just happened to see the attack as it happened, but they could not save Savannah. As far as a stance on pit bulls, I think that they are beautiful. I think they're majestic. Just like I think a tiger or a bear is beautiful. I just believe certain animals do belong in the wild. I don't believe, and I'm not saying, all 17-year-olds are all black people, or all white people, or all tall people. I'm saying that this breed has proven itself to be capable of doing great damage when it does strike. So whether the numbers are 1 in a million, or 1 in 10, or 1 in 50,000, or whatever the numbers are, when it does strike, it has the ability to do more than what most breeds will do, which is a bite, which is a snap and a release, versus a mauling, which is a sustained attack that usually results in devastation. So me coming on this panel, I hope I did not disappoint anybody because I'm not a pro or anti-pit bull.
Okay.
I just I don't want any mama, any parent, anybody to go through what I went through just because they want to say they played Russian roulette and won. Some people win, some people die.
Wow. Wow.
So that's my stance.
Dr. Becky, this is the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
This is the pain. We're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be back with more of Talking Out Loud with A.L. Cooper.
Life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
Ready or not, here I come.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. You're watching Talking Out Loud with A.L. Cooper. I'm your host, A.L., and today we are talking about a very hot topic. We're talking about pit bulls. Are they a family friend or family foe? Now, before we went to break, Angela, you were giving us your account of what happened to you in regards to your babies. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing that with us. It was such a brave moment for you to just express yourself, because I know how hard it is. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing that story with us, to get our perspective of what it feels like to have had that happen. So I thank you for that. And I'm sure our audience agrees with us the same. And one thing that I love that you said is, you said that you are not necessarily against or for anything. You just want to make sure that if it is an aggressive breed, that it's not, expound more on that.
Well, especially like what Blake said, knowing what you're dealing with. Had I had really known what pit bulls were capable of, going into having children, I would not have kept that breed as a dog. I would not, if I would have known what pit bulls were capable of, before having kids, I wouldn't have owned that particular breed of dog. Now, as a single woman, it was fine. But then again, last year there were more adult fatalities than children fatalities, so it's really hard to say. But I do feel that everyone needs to know what their dog is capable of, so then that way, if they're educated, they'll know how to govern themselves accordingly. And if they still, because I have conversations with pit bull owners often. I mean, you can't tell somebody that their child is a sociopath. I mean, if a doctor told me, hey, my daughter is, because of these particular traits, she's capable of going and doing something crazy, like a massacre or something, I'd be like, get the heck out of here. Like, she's honest. I mean, she's a good kid. She goes to church with me. She plays the piano. She makes great grades. So you couldn't tell me that my kid is potentially, regardless of what you said she did at recess, So I get it when people love their animals. It's really hard to get them to feel any differently. You can't unlove someone. It's hard. You can, but it's really hard to unlove something or unlove someone. But if someone goes into a situation, I have a lot of people that reach out to me and say, oh, thank you for sharing your story. I was considering a pit bull, but because I have children, I decided to go with another breed. Mm-hmm. And those are the choices that are, some people say, no, Angela, here's pictures of my dog with my kids. It's all good, and I can exchange. I got pictures of my kid with, my dogs, and that's great. But here we are, talking about the death of my son. So I think people that know, absolutely know, like kind of like, I think what would be a great idea is kind of like nutrition facts.
Yeah.
Should come with every breed of dog and say, okay, this breed
has this type of information about it.
Or last year this breed had this many bites, regardless of what breed it is. This last year this breed had this many fatalities, regardless of what breed it is. All dogs should come with nutrition facts, so people can decide that, oh, you know what, this is not nutritious for my home, or you know what, screw it. Like me, I'll down a Coke. I don't care if it cleans battery acid or if it'll eat my kidneys. I like it. I got to size them out. So.
Well, and I want to just say you're absolutely right. Like I know Blake, you and Dean both deal with training as well as rescuing animals of all sorts, not necessarily pit bulls. Do you feel that education of maybe more about the particular breed would help with all of this?
I absolutely agree, and so do the partner rescues that we work with as well. When we place a pit bull into a home for adoption, there is a huge process that goes into selecting a home, and the home being the right for both the parents, children, other dogs, and the dog. If it's not a good fit, we deny the application based on that, because like her situation, that is the last thing any of us in rescue want to happen, because there's probably nothing more heart-wrenching than to lose a child for any reason whatsoever. There's not a but to follow that.
Do you do a stress test? Do you do a stress test?
Yes, we do. We do a temperament testing with multiple dogs prior to ever introducing them for adoption.
And may I say something about the temperament testing? When, of course, after my son died, of course, they tested Kissy Face for 10 days. They had a specialist from Florida and someone from upstate do all types of temperament testing to see what could have happened. And the detective broke down at the end and just cried. She cried. She said she cussed a little bit, and she said it was a freak occurrence. That's what they closed it out, because they did everything that they could to understand why this dog did that, and really looked shameless, like, what did I do? What did I do? That's how Kissy Face looked after she killed my son. There's nothing. It's a scale. You have to really ask yourself as a parent or as a dog owner, and knowing what the possibilities are, is it calculate the risk. Even if all pit bulls don't attack, even if all pit bulls haven't bitten anyone, but that it could happen, and if it does happen, what's the severity? What's counting the costs? What will the costs be? For me, my husband and I, we're divorced now because it was my dog. He hates me. I lost my marriage. I lost my son. My daughter is broken. My daughter is so broken, and I don't know what to do.
Dr. Becky, what do you do? What do you say when you have someone come to you traumatized like this? How do they get over that?
As far as a loss goes, the loss in and of itself, if that's the issue, then in a way it's not different than other loss. I mean, when we know someone's going to pass away, it's always easier than when it's unexpected, than when it's an accident. When it was a pet or something, there's that sense of responsibility that comes in that makes it harder. And so in that case, a lot of times it is talking about your story, which is something that you're doing. No matter how I might feel about the legislation piece, that's absolutely important to talk about it. In the case of someone like your daughter, it becomes, is the issue just the loss? Is there also phobias or anxiety forming around that? And the anxiety wouldn't have to be just about dogs, but it can be about the world. If something happens when you're young, the message you just got is that the world is scary and unsafe. And we can project that onto everything. So a lot of the times that's the work we end up doing when people come to us, is sort of helping you realize that the world is not a bad place. Not all people are bad. Not all dogs are bad. If we're feeling responsible, realizing that we can't predict things that happen. And even things like your idea, I love the idea of the nutrition facts. Knowing what we're getting into. And I mean, that even goes, we have these hyper dogs that jump and people adopt them and they're not ready for it, and then they abandon them because they weren't ready.
Like, what dog is likely to chew up my high heels? Like, I need to know these things.
I need to know that too. Yes.
Like you breed dogs, you deal with a lot of dogs. Pit bulls are not the only aggressive breeds. I mean, there are some other dogs, even little little bitty dogs that could be considered aggressive as well.
Absolutely. Chihuahuas bite almost just as many people as pit bulls do, but they don't kill.
Right.
Chihuahuas can kill. They've killed infants.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. Jump up on the bed, Chihuahuas are very territorial, and jump up on the bed and grab the infant by the throat. And there was a few things she said I want to elaborate on. One in particular about she didn't hear anything. What happens here, and right before going to that, you mentioned that they evaluated the dog and they said that was just a happenstance. When they say it was a happenstance of sort, in the behavior world of dogs, these particular dogs, they possess a targeted prey drive. What that means is that for weeks they can contemplate on what they want, and they're opportunists. Like that rabbit story, that was clearly a sign of a very aggressive drive. All right. Not only do I want to go in and kill this rabbit, now other dogs would have killed this rabbit and it'll lie dead and there's been very little blood, but this dog is going to wipe the floor with this animal. Now, what happens when a dog with that much power and the dog that's designed to do what they do, they go straight to, it's like a cheetah going to the throat, all right, or a lion doing the same thing. So when it hit that child, the reason you didn't hear anything, because we all know that when a child's afraid and it cries, it breathes in. It takes that deep breath. All right? I remember being disciplined as a child, and I felt the first whack of the bell down. All right? Well, that dog grabs, and it doesn't allow that air to escape, so you hear nothing. This is a perfect animal to do what it does. Okay? The other thing is, we humanize dogs. When we humanize dogs and we treat them like an equal, then no one is in charge in the house. This dog has to answer to no one. Right? Now the pecking order is lost. Now it's not dad, mom, oldest child, youngest child, dog, where it should be. It's dad, dog, or mom, dog, child, child. So the dog can feel it needs to discipline, because dogs discipline each other. They check each other all the time. Right? And a pit bull has such a drive. Now, it doesn't know, I won't say it doesn't know what it does. What it does is it does what it does best. It's a killer. When it decides to kill, it's the best breed of dog we have on the planet to kill. It's not anyone better than what it does. There's not another dog on the planet that was trained like this dog was trained. He said it himself. There's not another dog on the planet that was abused as long. This dog has been abused since the 1800s, since it existed, since it came on earth and was created. We welcomed him into our world and abused it and trained it to do violent things.
So to answer the question, family friend or family foe?
Depend on the family.
Can I weigh in?
Yeah.
And it's not going to be a clear answer, but you had brought up the whole, what if your kid was a sociopath, right? Mm-hmm. And when we have kids who have sociopathic traits, or more commonly kids who are autistic and can be violent, mm-hmm. we tell the parents, here's how you interact with this child to keep everybody safe, keep the child safe. And I agree. I think if you're going to adopt any dog, you need to know, here's the background and here's what you're in for. And you're going to need, there are some dogs you need to be very dominant with. There's others you don't. Aside from, abuse in its lifetime. So I don't think there is a clear answer. I think the answer is that people need to be responsible, and they need to only adopt an animal that they are in a position to care for, and where they can reach out to professionals and say, hey, can you help me, help me discipline this dog so I know how to interact with it. The same way if you had an autistic child, you wouldn't just go, he's banging his head against the wall. No, you would go get help.
Right, that's true. So I guess as I'm the everyday person here on the panel, because I don't know a whole lot and I've not gone through a whole lot of traumatic experiences and I'm not rescued. If I wanted to adopt a dog, or if I wasn't sure and I didn't want to go through the same thing that poor Angela had to go through with her family, how can I find out the history behind a dog that I adopt? How do you know?
A lot of times we do not know the history of the dog. And not knowing the history of the dog, we have to evaluate the dog based on what Blake's methods as well of stress testing, temperament testing. We have to rely upon that. We do not put dogs in foster care with foster families that are first-time pit bull owners because of various reasons, and one of which being if you're an inexperienced pit bull owner, you will miss the signs.
Can a dog have a trigger that you don't know about?
Absolutely. Although sometimes the dynamics of a different home change or different environment may be a trigger, or it may be what stops the trigger. It's a lot of it's environmentally driven. And also, as Blake alluded to, the dominance and the hierarchy it's established with each and every dog. And it's different. It varies from breed to breed, as we have found.
We can't ignore that 62% each year, between 62 and 64% of all fatalities are by pit bulls and pit bull mixes.
By people identifying them as such, which the CDC doesn't do anymore.
These are dogs that are recognized and caught and put down a lot of cases.
But Fulton County misidentifies pit bulls all the time.
Well, you know what? This is a hot discussion. We're going to have to do a show number 2 with this, because this is something that is such a heated debate. But before we go, I want you guys just to say, like Dean, if people wanted to know more about the rescue, what's the website that they could visit?
www.BAAN.org. It's Bikers Against Animal Abuse and Neglect.
And if they have like a rescue or whatever, they can just reach out to your organization and say, hey, I need some help with this particular pet.
Yes, and we have a lot of resources in place. Granted, the most difficult dogs for us to place are pit bulls for various reasons, one of which is behavioral and perception based on media coverage and so forth. So they're a little more difficult to place than, say, a poodle or a chihuahua.
Okay. Blake, if someone wanted to learn more about training their dog or reconditioning their dog to a more applicable, more behavior, a better, well-behaved dog, what's the website that they could visit for you? Or even wanted their child to attend one of your camps?
Well, you can contact me or reach me at kidsandcanines.org, and that's kids with a Z at the end instead of an S, okay. and a letter K and the number 9 with an S at the end. Also, you can go to Ash.dog with Instagram and Facebook. The biggest thing is contact us, reach out to us, and if you want to pick out a dog, we sit down with families all the time, and I ask you a bunch of questions, and you find out what's dog best for you.
Okay. Angela, do you have some sort of trust or fund for your son?
No.
Okay. Well, you know what? They can contact us if they want to get in contact with you, and
yes,
that's.
I used to have a way for people to communicate through my website.
Right.
But it was a lot of negativity, and I just kind of wanted to grieve and heal and go back to it at another time.
Completely understand. And Dr. Rebecca Johnson?
Keep it simple. You can Google Dr. Rebecca Johnson or Concierge Psychology, and I should be one of the first results on Google.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's just been a fantastic show. Until next time, we'll talk out loud with you later.
Talking out loud with A.L. Cooper. She's talking out loud, but she's saying something. 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 Politics, religion, fashion, people, passion, lifestyles, no topic too wild. She's talking out loud, but she's saying something. She's talking out loud, but she's saying something. She's talking out loud, but she's saying something.